Welcome to Lira in Law, and thank you very much for joining me for our usual Thursday get together from 7:30 p.m. Ako pong host nyo, Lira Simon Kabatbat of Douglas Simon Solicitors. I'm a practicing solicitor of 34 years. 34 years post-qualification experience. So hindi pa kasama yung pag-aaral, training, and all of that. If you add those, then I am nearly 40 years in law. I can't even bring myself to say it. Anyway, I've been doing this a long time. As usual po, I am broadcasting live from London, England. So it's now a hot Thursday evening pa rin, no? We've had actually quite a lot of warm weather, which is unusual. Well, I say that because usually it doesn't last so long. So by the time the next year comes, I'd forgotten about it. So I think this year is particularly hot. No, but look, we should enjoy it. Yung nga lang, of course, we need to be careful also. No, careful if you're looking to swim. No, careful you don't get burned. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying your summer, and I hope that you enjoy tonight. No, we have lots of interesting questions. And salamat po to those of you who very kindly taking your time and posted it in. As usual, our topic and our star question comes from you. No? But hindi nga lang yun. So I'll just summarize what we're going to be discussing today. So, topic po natin ngayon is changing student visa to a spouse visa. It's a great one. Dahil it's actually a situation that comes up that's fairly usual. No, matagal ng tao dito, they meet someone, so they're here on a student visa with obviously viewing to study, and then they have a relationship. Then they want to see, should they change their visa? No, you don't always need to change your visa. Should they change their visa from the current visa they have, in this case student to something else, a spouse visa? It's not always it's not necessary to change unless you want to, of course, and sometimes it's more beneficial to stay to remain with the visa that you have, but sometimes it's more beneficial to change it. So that's one of our viewers, and and because of that, here siya nga ang star question. I'll read that in a moment. Pero hindi lang yon. Marami pa tayong ibang topic. So of course, as I've said, it's the switching from student visa to spouse visa, and within that the marriage rules, the spousal rules no. Let's say you've been given a visa to come into the United Kingdom, when do you need to use it by? If you remember, and this is a topic we discussed before, the immigration stickers, no? Wala na po yun. So everything now is online, so you should really have a smartphone. Because it's now e-visa. So if you're given a visa when do you need to use it by? Again, great question because it's very relevant. Pero hindi nga lang yun. Sabihin natin you live in the Philippines. One of our viewers, she lives in the Philippines with her partner. She wants to come into the UK with the partner. Partner niya, half British daw. So anong kailangang pakitang sweldo ng partner niya, no? Who she's coming into the UK with their child niya. Again, very relevant question, but not one that's asked too often, no? And visit visas. So ever popular topic now, visit visas. Visit visas. In this case, though, there's the unusual thing is a visit visa nga niya 2 years. No? It doesn't mean that 2 years nga pwede siya dito. Pag-usapan natin yun. Pero hindi nga lang yun. She's thinking of maybe switching that, or she's thinking of getting a fiancé visa, not switching it, but getting a fiancé visa. Ano bang ibig sabihin? Does she need to wait until the visa expires? Is she likely to have problems because she had a visit visa and then she entered the UK and stayed for the 6 months nga? So lots of topics nga, lots of interesting topics nga ngayon, which is not unusual, no? It never ceases to amaze me, that people take the time to actually post their questions, and also the interesting topics then that you post. So to be frank, I had difficulties choosing, which topic would be our star question. But as I say, I settled on the switching from a student visa to a spouse visa, simply because it's a very It's a very usual scenario that I'm actually dealing with at the moment. I have a few applications nga, exactly this, no, student to that of a spouse. So, and as usual, I will give you tips. But let me just say this. Kung hindi kayo sigurado kung anong sitwasyon nyo nga, if you're not clear what your legal position is, you should, and I advise strongly, to seek independent legal advice. Na ito, of course, no, I'm happy to discuss, and I hope that I'm helpful nga to you, but nothing beats independent legal advice, because then yung abogado nga you'll be able to give them, for example, copy of your visa, copy of your documents. They can ask you pertinent questions so that you can also, and you can ask them questions too, of course, no? Because it could be that your circumstances actually change, or your advice would actually change. There's something that's not been noted, no, from the questions. That basically, meron tayong mga limits. So, ang payo ko, you should seek independent legal advice. But for the moment, I will try my best nga to at least to hopefully point you in the right direction. Okay? Marami tayong mga questions nga. Marami tayong interesting topics. And of course, we have really good questions. So we're gonna focus on those. But of course, hindi natin makakalimutan our batian section. So kung gusto niyo akong batiin, and I hope that you do, don't forget, not too late. You just need to put in your comments nga, no, on Facebook. So I hope you do. That's the bit I enjoy most. I mean, I like our show, of course, but I do enjoy very much the batian. So do say hello, okay? Now, without further ado, let us go into our question from which our topic came, which is changing student visa to a spouse visa. Ito nga question niya, no? So sabi niya dito. Good day, attorney, sabi niya. I would like to seek your advice regarding my situation. My British boyfriend and I are planning to get married. Congratulations. But we're not familiar with the legal and immigration process involved. I'm currently in the UK, right, on a student visa, and we understand that I may need to change my immigration status once we are married. May I ask whether it would be more advisable to get married in the UK or in the Philippines? Again, great point, no? After we get married, which visa should I apply for to remain in the UK with my husband? Could you explain the process of switching from a student visa to a spouse visa, including the requirements and the usual processing timeline? So, again, as usual nga, it's a relatively short, question, but a lot's packed in. So let's dissect it, no? That's our question natin. Let's unpack it quite a bit more. So ito. So una nga, estudyante siya dito, okay? She's already in the United Kingdom. So she's living here at the moment, obviously studying, and she wants to marry her British boyfriend, okay? Questions niya. Which visa? Now, student visa ka ngayon, so you want to swap it once you are married to a spouse visa, okay? And I'll go through the requirements in a moment, okay? Now, pero una ito, is it also the right thing to do, to switch it? Just because you're changing from, just because you're getting married, kung nag-aaral ka pa rin and you satisfy your student visa conditions, and you will continue to satisfy your student visa conditions after marriage, then think about whether or not you want to switch. Most of the time, between a student visa, because of the limitations of a student visa, it may be more beneficial and practical to switch it over to a spouse. But bear in mind, you don't have to quit your college. No, you don't have to quit your education just because you're switching over to a spouse. You can continue to study if you want to. Yung nga lang, if a spouse visa doesn't have the same limitations as a student visa. For example, you can study if you wish. You can study part-time if you wish. You can, on a spouse visa, I'm talking about that. You can work and study at the same time. You can be self-employed and study at the same time, kung gusto mo, no? Or you cannot study. Yeah. So in some ways, a spouse visa may be more beneficial, maybe more practical, but it doesn't have to be. So I've had clients, for example, where they have a work visa, tier 2 or skilled worker route, and they were already so close to getting indefinite leave to remain because they've been in the country for the length of time required, in this in their case 5 years, or nearly 5 years, to swap it over to a spouse visa. given that they were already on their fourth year under the skilled worker route, would have been silly, because that would mean the spouse visa requirement says 5 years in total before you can get indefinite leave to remain. So 2.5 years muna, and then another 2.5 years extension. So that ibig sabihin, 5 years pakailangan niya, which is essentially meant that to change it over would be adding 5 years to the length of time that she's already been in the UK. So in her case, sabi ko sa kanya, well, you might as well complete nga your, not swap, continue with the visa nga that you have, because in a year's time, she was already on her fourth year at the time, in a year's time, you can then make an application for indefinite leave to remain. So switching is not a must, is what I'm getting at. And think seriously about whether switching from one visa to another visa is the practical thing to do. All right. So you don't have to change, but you can if you want to. Spouse visa normally, as I've said, would have far less limitation than a student visa. Now, next question, Anya, should they marry in the Philippines or the UK? Now, it depends very much on partly yung priorities nyo. I've had clients where it's maybe not so practical to leave the UK and marry abroad, but they wanted to. They wanted their relatives, especially sa atin, no? Magulang nga nandoon, mga pinsan, kapatid, nandun sila lahat sa Pilipinas. So you can absolutely marry, of course, in the Philippines, but you can also marry in the United Kingdom. Now, if you want specific points nga about marrying in the UK, I think 3 shows ago, no, we dealt exactly with that, marrying in the UK. No? So go back to our videos previously. It wasn't that long ago, 3 shows before, and I dealt with that exactly. No, now. So you can marry, of course, in the UK. We can, as I've said, and you can marry also in the Philippines. But think about, ano bang practical? If you just simply wish to marry because you want to change over nga to a spouse visa sooner rather than later, do that. No, it doesn't have to be a big wedding. A lot of my clients actually, ang ginagawa nila dito sa kinakasal, usually at civil registrar, and then pagka a year later, in time, or maybe a little bit less than a year later, but for most of my clients, a year later, they then go for their honeymoon in the Philippines, and that's when they have a one client sabi niya sa akin, blowout, no? So a celebration nga of the wedding. Normally, I had a client recently. They celebrated their first wedding anniversary at saka their honeymoon together nga in the Philippines. Pero dito sila kinasal. So that may be nice. No? Now, you asked also about switching. So as I've said, you can switch nga, but not all visas can be switched. Yeah. So, but the student visa should be able to, because you're here, and I assume that you're here on the long-term visa nga, the student visa. So you can usually switch to a spouse visa, but you need to be able to show much the same conditions as anyone else applying for a spouse visa, right? So by that, I mean income ng asawa mo, and actually, if you're working, you need to be working properly. And of course, there are limits to a student visa, no? The time that you're working as a student, if it's proper, as long as it's legal working, and it should really be, of course, can be added to the income too. But yung asawa mo or yung fiancé mo should be earning no less than 29,000 pounds, okay? Before tax, 29,000 pounds. And usually, if it's paid employment, they should hold that employment for 6 months normally. No? Now, don't forget also, people always forget this. The financial requirement has two limbs. Okay? There's absolutely the income, which is 29,000 pounds, up from 18,600 pounds a couple of years ago. And the second limb is accommodation. So kailangan meron kayong titirhan, mapapakitang titirhan nga dito, which I'm sure you probably have because you're here, no? But the accommodation must also be suitable. It doesn't have to be one that you own. It doesn't have to be a house that you occupy on your just the two of you nga. It can also be a room as long as it's occupied by just the two of you. It can be rented accommodation, it can be lodgings, as long as it's appropriate nga, no? Now, also, of course, it needs to be a valid marriage. So getting married at the registrar is not a problem. English language. Now, this should not be a problem. You're already here on a student visa, and the student visa English requirement is usually higher than the required. And normally, what's required is an 8. Well, I usually say to clients A2, no, level. So you probably already have a B1 or indeed a B2, no, because that requirement nga. So that should not be a problem. Just beware that a lot of these have an expiry date, no? So just be careful. In your case, because you used it for an immigration application before, probably, you can probably still reuse it now. So if you have a B1 or indeed even B2, that should suffice. Now, of course, English requires continued relationship. So if you're living together, great. No? Mga bills nyo, for example, rental agreement. No? If you're not living together, then other things. So meron pa kayong mga pictures. You can provide pictures. The home office don't really like it too much. Yeah. But if you have, say, any investments together, so anything like that. So you need to be able to show continued relationship. If you're not living together, that's okay too. No, as long as by the time you switch, you're already married. Yeah. Now, also, sabi mo so another question you had is timeline. Wow, what can I say about timeline? It is frustratingly slow at the moment. Previously, there was sabi nila, okay, with a lot of applications, it was 6 months. And then they changed that to 12 months. Now, there's no time limit at all, which is truly frustrating for a lot of people. Now, in your case, because you're switching from a student visa to a spouse, you should look at the possibility of what's called priority service. It's probably available to you. You're switching. If you are able to apply on a priority service, there's an additional fee of, I think it's £1,000 at the moment to the Home Office. Then they should be able to do that within a matter of a few days, the switching. Okay, but have a look. I must say, I've been looking for a priority service now. Okay, not the spouse visa application for a client of mine, where it should be allowed, but I've not been lucky, and that's been 2 weeks now to see if I can book a priority service. Beware also, you can't apply now and then switch later to a priority service. You need to make that decision when you make the application. There's no switching. Okay. Now, bear in mind also, pag kung kakasal nga kayo, because you have limitations on your visa nga, that means that it's very likely when you go to the civil registrar, sasabihin nila, oh, you need to give 70 days notice rather than the usual 28 days notice. Okay, so I'm saying that to you now because just in case you're looking to also book your, say to your friends and family, save the date. You need to allow for that because it's obviously more than double than the usual 28 days. So let's say na ipasok nyo na and then you get the visa and then the application is there. Let me just give you this tip, no? Until you get your spouse visa, okay, until you are granted the spouse visa from a student visa, ang conditions mo is still a student. Okay, so if you can't work, for example, then you're still not allowed to work, even though you applied for a spouse visa. Making the application does not remove the conditions you have. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin until such time as you get your spouse visa nga. So it's importante po yun, because if you don't, or rather if you breach your student visa conditions, then you're in breach, no? And they don't like that, understandably, and that might put in jeopardy your existing application. Now, another tip is this, mabagal nga sila ngayon. If it takes a while, sabihin natin, no, and your student visa ends, let's say it ends in December, no, yung visa mo, your student visa. But yung application, nagpasok ang application to swap it over to a spouse visa. But unfortunately, it's still with the Home Office in January na, no? January 2027. What does that mean? Overstayer ka na ba? Hindi po. Okay? You continue to have the same, you continue to have the same restrictions, same benefits na, of a student visa, tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Okay? So it just continues nga until such time as the Home Office actually deal with it. So you're not an overstayer. The only but bear in mind, of course, once your visa lapses, even though of course you're allowed to stay in the UK because you made an application before your visa expired, don't leave the country. Okay, at that point, if you leave the country, your visa having expired, then they will consider your existing application as a spouse as abandoned, which means you have to start over again from the Philippines, right? So it's important that you do that. No? Bear that in mind. So usually when people are making applications, I say to them, don't book anything, don't book holidays, because at the moment the Home Office are, well, I mean, look, they're very busy, no? And they are unfortunately probably undermanned. So I hope that they get the time scale better, but at the moment that's not, that we'll probably have to live with that for probably at least the next 12 months, probably longer. No? So bear that in mind if you're looking to book a holiday, even though in the scheme of things, switching, you would think would be less problematic than others, but don't book any holidays, all right? Now, tell me what happens, and better yet, when you get married, send us some photos. People never tell me what happens afterwards, no? And I always say, it's like reading a book and not knowing how it ends. And it's really annoying. So please do keep me informed, okay? Now, we have other questions, and sorry, ang boses ko nawawala na because I have a bit of a cold amongst other things. So it's so my apologies. Now, it's next question po natin ito. About po ito, about po ito sa dependent visa and approved na. Okay? So na-approve na yung dependent visa niya. Ilang days po pwedeng manatili sa Pilipinas bago po mag-flight dito sa UK? Bago po kasi yung visa, ang e-visa, nawala na yung vignette. Tama ka, no? Okay? Hindi po kasi makita doon yung days bago magbiyahe. Salamat po. So, great question. Actually, this one, in fact, I had to look up because it's it's not one that I'd normally I'm normally asked, because most of the time mga kliyente ko nakakuha ng visa, no, immediately they want to come to the UK. But it's actually a very pertinent question. So question nga nito, dependent visa siya. Nakakuha siya ng dependent visa. Maybe it's a spouse visa, for example, no? So nasa Pilipinas pa rin siya. Gusto niyang lumipad na papunta sa UK, but will not do that immediately. So when does she need to use the visa by? And this is it, okay? So this is the answer to that. I'll read to you what Appendix FM states. Appendix FM is family, basically. And so ito deals with family applications. So maiksi nga lang naman. So let me just read to you a section from there. An applicant who meets the requirements for entry clearance as a partner will be granted an entry clearance for an initial period not exceeding 33 months. And subject to a condition of no recourse to public funds, they will be eligible to apply for settlement after a continuous period of at least 60 months in the UK, with leave to enter granted on the basis of such entry clearance, or with limited leave to remain as partner granted them the paragraph D. Anyway, it goes on, no? And the answer is actually in that, no? But you do have to dissect it a bit to get it. So, kung kailangan mong pakita, nasa UK ka na, kailangan yung pakita dito that you've been, before you can get indefinite leave to remain, na nandito ka at least 60 months, tuloy-tuloy, right? So that's 5 years nga. And you've given 33 months initially for the first spouse visa. The second spouse visa, you would normally be given 30 months. then then the time that you need to come into the UK would be the 90 days to enter the UK. And the reason for that is this. So if you get 33 months and then another 30 months nga, okay, that means you will have been in the United Kingdom essentially 5 years and 3 months. But to get indefinite leave to remain, definitely kailangan mo 5 years, no? So 60 months nga, which means that you have a leeway of 3 months to enter the United Kingdom. There you go. So you should use your visa within the next 90 days. Because if you use it later, it means kapos kayo. No? So if you use it 4 months later, when you make an application for indefinite leave to remain later on, no, under the spouse visa nga, then it could be that you find you short by 1 month, no? Which would then require another application. So it's come within the next 90 days, right? I hope that's helpful. Actually, I like that question. I was tempted to use that actually as the star question. Anyway, so what's our next one? Tingnan nga natin ito. Okay. So sabi niya ito. Good day, attorney. Sabi niya, I would like to seek your advice regarding my immigration situation. Last year, I was pregnant. Okay, congratulations. I applied for UK visa, but my application was refused due to concerns about my financial circumstances. My partner is a British citizen, but he's not currently living in the UK. He is half British. He has no close relatives in the UK. His father has already passed away, and he does not have any assets in the UK. Because of this, we're unsure whether he can sponsor me and our child. May I ask whether a friend or relative in the Philippines can act as a financial sponsor for my UK visa application? I would also appreciate your advice on what type of visa may be appropriate for my situation. In addition, our baby's application for British passport was refused because I gave birth in the Philippines. Could you please advise us on the options available to us and the best way to move forward? I like this question because it's packed full of interesting points, no? So let me just see about ensuring that we deal with all the points of concerns, okay? So ito, just to summarize, partner niya, British, half British actually. May anak na sila, baby probably, because only last year she was pregnant nga. And for yung asawa niya, yung partner niya, nasa Pilipinas, but half British nga, no? Meron siyang mga, so nandun siya sa Pilipinas, siguro may trabaho siya sa atin, but no assets in the UK. Yung ama niya yung ama niya namatay na, wala siyang mga kamag-anak nga dito. Yung partner niya, no? Now, meron silang mga maaasahan sa Pilipinas na kamag-anak. Can they use that support, no? To show that they can support themselves in the UK without recourse to public funds. Now, separately from that, nagpasok din daw sila ng application para sa bata, yung baby nila. Dahil half British nga yung ama, nagpasok silang, they apply for British passport directly for the child. Na-refuse. Okay? Sabi niya, that's because it was refused because she gave birth in the Philippines. That's actually not correct. No? So we're going to discuss that also. Okay? So lots of so as I say, there's the British partner, there's the finance, and of course there's the baby. So we're going to discuss all of those. Now, let's discuss the British partner. Okay? Now, I suspect that yung partner mo obtained his citizenship. I mean, that he's British, I have no doubt, no? But he probably obtained his British citizenship by descent. Let me explain that. So, yung pinanganak siya sa atin, I suspect, yung tatay niya, Briton dito, maybe living in the UK, yung tatay niya, so nakakuha siya ng citizenship because of the father, no? Pero pinanganak siya sa atin. Now, for that means that he obtained his citizenship by descent. And for those people who enter the UK by descent, there's what's called the one generation rule. Citizenship by descent is passed down usually for only one generation. No, so that means that if you yourself, so nakuha niya yung British citizenship niya, no? But if you yourself have a child, in this case nga, no, then your child will not be automatically British because either of the one generation rule. So British ka, but you can't pass it on to your child. No? So the fact that the child was born in the Philippines, or frankly anywhere else, that's not the problem. The problem is his citizenship cannot be passed on to the child because it's by descent nga. Well, actually, let me qualify that. Of course, it would be different, or it will be different if the child was born in the UK, of course, no, because for example, or in certain circumstances, you could potentially register your child to be British. So there's another step before they become British. Yeah. But that would require the father to have lived in the United Kingdom, for example. No? And there are strict times when they're required to live in the UK. But there you would need a registration and not immediately a British passport. So I think the refusal was probably correct. But as I say, you should seek independent legal advice. Because look, the Home Office are not infallible. No, they do make mistakes. That's why you have appeals. No? So you should, especially in this situation, you should get it checked out na tama nga yung decision nga nila, no? Now, if it's correct that the baby will not receive your partner's citizenship because of the one generation rule, as I've said, possibly registration, but I don't know that that's necessarily applicable here. So let's say hindi nga yun, in which case you would need to see about making an application nga to come to the UK with your partner, no, under the spousal rules, because British nga siya, so he can come to the UK, but you still need to satisfy the spousal rules, and they are £29,000 income, no, accommodation in the United Kingdom, amongst other things. But let's focus on those because that's your question nga. Hindi nga wala siyang assets, hindi sapat ang pera. What can they do? Can a relative friend nga support? The answer is unlikely. No? The reason for that is this. They would only consider, that is the Home Office, would only consider really support from third parties where there are exceptional circumstances. Kung nandun kayo sa atin and you're both fairly healthy, baby's healthy, I can't really see that the Home Office will look at it as exceptional. Now, what you could do is you can see about your British partner coming, say, into the UK first, for example, and working here, or indeed if he has a job offer. Now, let me just read to you the Home Office guidance in relation to people entering the UK, coming with their sponsor. So doon kayo nakatira, no? So so there, kailangan nyo pa rin pakita that you're able to support yourselves in the UK without recourse to public funds. But obviously, you're not in the UK, or he's not in the UK yet. So what do you do? What can you show? Huh? So let me read to you the Home Office guidance. Isang sabi nila. In respect of a job offer in the UK, so for an applicant's partner or a parent's partner returning to salaried employment in the UK, the employer must provide the job offer, the gross annual salary, so gross being before tax nga, starting date of the employment, which must be within 3 months of the applicant's partner's return to the UK, or enclosing a signed contract, which must have a starting date within 3 months of the applicant's partner return to the UK. So, kung makakuha siya ng trabaho nga dito, and that income provides for £29,000, and within that, and then you're also able to sort out accommodation nga, then you would be able to come in with him, because you'll be able to show that he will have an income of £29,000. No? But £29,000, I appreciate, is quite a steep, salary, and not a lot of people, especially kung galing ka nga sa Pilipinas and you may not have perhaps qualifications or experience nga that may be a tall order for some coming to the UK. So what you could do, if you don't have that, if he doesn't have that job offer, is siya muna ang pasok dito, maghanap siya ng trabaho. It doesn't have to be just one job. It can be 2 jobs. It can be 3 jobs. Or it can be 4. No, it can be a combination of self-employment and employment. But you need to show £29,000. Before, there was this when it was £18,600, there was also an additional element nga financial requirement if you have a child, and that requirement then went up depending on the number of children, but that's gone now. It's £29,000 flat. Or I think it's if you have no income at all, then you need to be able to show savings, accessible savings of £88,500. Quite a lot. No? So it's quite a tall order. But let me know what happens, because it's quite I see a lot of people in this situation, no? And it's frustrating that they can't come to the UK. I mean, British nga yung asawa mo, no? And then there's a delay. So try, no? And one way of doing it, as I say, is mauna muna siya dito, maybe finds a job, settles down, and then makes an application for you and your baby to join him. Good luck. Let me know what happens. I always say this. Now it's really like reading a book but not knowing how it ends. Sabihin niyo sa akin, Sabihin niyo sa akin. Now, I think that may be all our questions for the moment, no? So sandali. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, no. Mustn't forget this. No, it's I've dealt with that question. No, I think that may be the questions. Now comes my favorite part of our show, which is the Batian section. So let me just see. I hope that there are greeters. No, let me just have a look. One hailing from the Philippines. No, thank you for staying up, no, until now. Alam mo, madaling araw sa atin nga, no? David Calixto II. Good evening, Attorney Lira. Kamusta po ang lahat? Kamusta ka? Well, ako mabuti lang. I mean, I have this horrible cold, no? So hopefully naintindihan niyo pa rin ako, but I'm kind of speaking through my nose at the moment, which is really, really annoying. So forgive me if I'm kind of my voice is a bit hoarse, no? Guy, the great guy from London. So sabi niya, happy Thursday to Attorney Lira and to the viewers. Worked in Canary Wharf today. Ooh, I was hot too. Then pasyal kami sa IKEA now. Oh, IKEA! I like IKEA. I'm now ambassador of atin siopaw asado. I looked up your website. I haven't ordered yet, but I'm gonna. It's my dinner now while listening to your lovely voice. Sabi niya, oh, salamat. Yeah, yon. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually maybe at the weekend I'm going to order a guy. Okay, I do like them. I like the there are quite a few choices nga. Now, hindi pa tapos. Sandali. Let me just have a look. Let me go back. So, sorry. You can order on the network link. I can post here with your permission, of course. Yes, of course. Looking forward to lots of learning. Again, Guy, the great guy. Yeah. No, I'm gonna. I know there's a siopaw, kind of. At saka, I can't remember the other things. Oh yeah, the pork. Nakalimutan ko. Lechon. Meron lechon, no? So I'm gonna try out the lechon. Oh, you make me hungry, guy. I haven't eaten yet, no? Miss Diesta, Lorna Diesta. Good evening, Attorney Lira. Sabi, and your viewers, it's a lovely, warm evening. Madam, tama ka. It is, actually, no, tonight, hindi gaano mainit, which is kind of nice. You're right. It is a lovely, warm evening. There have been evenings, especially, pagka matutulog ka na, that it's been so hot that you can't actually sleep. No? But yes, tama ka. And I hope you also enjoy your lovely, warm evening. Yes, I'm sorry to hear it not well. Hopefully you'll get well soon. Yeah, these things happen. I think partly dahil mainit nga, no? So pinapawisan ka, tapos you have the fan on, you have the windows down, or if you're lucky, you have your aircon on, no? And so going from hot um, to cold is probably not very good for you, and that's probably what caused me my cold nga. So nandiyan pa rin, no? Miss Jones, Marilyn Jones, a lovely Thursday evening at Lira, and all viewers, another interesting and informative evening to all of us. Salamat. Salamat po. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it, no? I certainly enjoy it. I hope that comes across, no? I liked our topics today. They're great topics. And they're very interesting topics. Miss Jones, by the way, I haven't said this recently, but Miss Jones, by the way, is a great dancer. Don't ask me how I know that, but she is. Absolutely, she is. Mating Bao Vargas, good evening, sabi niya, Attorney Lira, and to all viewers, happy Thursday po sa lahat. Watching from Exeter, Devon. I'm jealous, no? Devon is beautiful, especially when it's summer, no? It's just, it's difficult to beat Devon when it's summer. I mean, having said that, we're very lucky. Ang opisina ko, we are based in Richmond, no? So yung dulo ng central line ng district line. And it's great because you have the park na, amongst other things. Miss Gilling, this is a new photo, Miss Gilling, Gilling, huh? Good evening and happy Thursday, ma'am, and to all viewers, happy Thursday po, Miss Gilling. Is that you in the photo? In the photo? Oh, looks very posh. Oh, that's that. Miss Raphael, the lovely Miss Raphael. And she's feeling good because she's all in caps. Hello, good evening, Attorney Lira, and a happy Thursday to all viewers. Happy Thursday po. Where are you at the moment? Are you back in sunny Wimbledon, or are you still in very, very sunny Philippines? No, Wimbledon is now finished, no, diba? I didn't actually follow Wimbledon this year. I don't really know why. Because of the football. I was focused on the football. So, Max Alvarez. Oh, hi, Lira. Can you kindly read my message to you, please, when you finish your live broadcast here? Thanks. Of course, I will. No problem. I will read it. If you posted it on Facebook, absolutely, I will read it. Nga, no, Max Alvarez. Okay. So let me just see if there are any other questions. Oh, ito. Okay. So galing to kay Jane Ibtash, no? Hi po, Attorney Lira. My question po regarding my skilled work visa application. I submitted my application on the 13th of April, 2026. Okay, so it's a few months ago, and completed all the required verification process on the same date. On the 5th of May, 2026, I received an email from UKVI advising that my application was delayed due to a complex issue. Okay, and that further time was required. However, on 17 July 2026, my sponsor checked the sponsor management system and informed me that my cost shows as used. They also advised that under the, let me just have a look at the, under the VI. So let me just see. I'm sure there's some, it shows granted. Could you please advise what this means? Okay. Does this indicate that my skilled worker application has already been approved? And what steps should I take, as I have not received an official decision email or e-visa update from the UKVI? Thank you, Poo, so much. Yeah, that's a bit strange. It's been, so, unang-una, tama ka, check your e-visa, no? And then, failing that, check your spam, because it could be that they emailed you, just went to spam. I've had a few clients where that's happening. Otherwise, chase them, no? And ask them now what has happened. There's a discrepancy. It shows granted. I think recently, especially, there's there may be something going on with their system. So recently, as in this week, I've had letters from the Home Office. One was dated May, but I got it the other day. Okay. And another one was dated June, beginning of June, and also I got that this week. So there's clearly delay in their system. it's not unusual for there to be a lag, um, between, say, the decision being made and you being informed, but not normally that long. So check it again. Otherwise, raise it now with the home office with UKVI, because that's I wouldn't worry about it too much nga ngayon, because unfortunately, as I say, I I certainly have experienced nga that there's a lag between the decision being made and the time that you are informed it. So you'll probably find that actually it was granted. It's just you haven't been told. Okay, so don't worry about it too much now. Edgar, do I? Don't now. Do you not agree with me that this photo is very Bond-like? I mean, James Bond. I mean, magandang gabi po, sabi niya sa inyong lahat. Magandang gabi, sir. Are you well? You're not in IKEA as well, are you? Like a guy. I like IKEA, but I never come out of IKEA without a headache because it's so vast, no? It's so vast. So it's but I hope you're well, and say hello to the family. Edgar is lovely, and if I can find, we have a photo together, Edgar and I, because we Miss Rafael very kindly invited me to one of her do's, and I was able to and I had some photos taken, and so I'll see if I can find it. We can post it, no? Oh, so Gianni, thank you so much for Attorney Lira. Yeah, huwag ka gaano mag-alala. You'll find it will come through sometime. No? Now, let me just have a look if there are any other greeters. Tingnan nga natin. Oh yeah, don't forget yung contact details namin, ha? So bukas kami Monday to Friday, of course, no? Between 9:30 to 5:30. But Thursdays, bukas kami from 9:30 to 7:30. So it's actually a long day for me on Thursdays. But I mean, because of course after nga, after work I come here. So now let me just see if there's Edgar, sabi niya, attorney, pakilinaw mo. Natuto bang ang healthcare visa route na 5 years lang pwede na mag-ILR? The healthcare visa route, 5 years lang para mag. It depends when you entered, Edgar. So it depends when you enter. There have been changes, to the healthcare visa route, and also some routes are already closed, like carers nga, that happened in July only, actually. So it depends very much when you entered the United Kingdom. They have extended some to 10 years. Some are still under the 5-year route. So yun, but you'll find those ones who came in a while ago would still be under the 5-year route. There's still talk about this, this earned settlement scheme nga. Goodness knows. Goodness knows. There've been lots and lots and lots of changes. And there will be also lots of changes to immigration rules. So that's why I say again, kung nalilito kayo, best to get independent legal advice, because you're at the moment dealing not only with the complexity of the immigration rules, but also is it still applicable to you? Are there transitional provisions? No, so really nothing beats independent legal advice. So I hope that you do. Now, gosh, please, no. I'm very well, thank you, sabi ni Edgar. I'm glad. He is a lovely chap, no? And of course, Irene, his other half, some may say better half, okay? Is also lovely. They're a great couple, no? And I'm always so grateful to people who I was in touch with 5 years ago, no? Diba, Edgar? 5 years ago. We've been messaging on like now, yeah? And we're still doing it. We started this. I started broadcasting at 6 years ago. 6 years ago, yeah. Because of COVID, diba? Dahil nalilito mga tao. And I thought maybe I can be of some help to try and discuss the rules, being able to enter the UK, having to stay in a hotel, being subject to, to quarantine effectively when you arrive in the UK, when you're in the Philippines. And we've continued. So we're now over half a decade later, over 5 years now, we're still doing it. And I'm enjoying it as before, no? And that's because, of you who, sumusubaybay nga, and you say hello, which is always, always nice. Now, just really, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Salamat po. It just leaves me really to say salamat po for posting your questions, for saying hello, for watching, listening nga. I hope that you found it interesting. Kung meron kayong mga kaibigan, kamag-anak nga who you think may be helped by our show, pasa nyo, no? Sharing is caring, I always say. Yeah. And it maybe it's not helpful to you at the moment, but it could be helpful to them. No, so sharing is caring. Salamat po to the Facebook groups for allowing us to post our contents on their pages. Salamat po. And thank you very, very much for continuing to keep me company on our usual Thursday get together. And I hope you will keep me company again next week for our usual Thursday get together. Same time, same place. Good night.